In early 2025, whispers began to circulate in the media and public forums about the state of Michelle and Barack Obama's marriage. The catalyst for these rumors was Michelle Obama's noticeable absence from several high-profile events, including President Jimmy Carter's funeral and former President Donald Trump's inauguration. Observers noted that Barack Obama attended these events alone, leading to speculation about potential marital discord. The media quickly picked up on these absences, with tabloids and online platforms suggesting that the former First Lady's non-attendance was indicative of deeper issues within the Obama household. Social media platforms buzzed with theories and hashtags related to the Obama's marriage trended for days. The narrative being painted was one of a couple drifting apart, with Michelle's absences serving as the primary evidence. However, those close to the Obamas and many political analysts urged caution. They highlighted Michelle Obama's long-standing commitment to personal authenticity and her history of making choices aligned with her values. They reminded the public of her previous statements about the importance of self-care and setting personal boundaries, especially after the intense scrutiny of 8 years in the White House. Despite these reminders, the rumors persisted, fueled by a media landscape eager for sensational stories and a public fascinated by the personal lives of prominent figures. The absence of direct communication from Michelle Obama on the matter only intensified the speculation, with many interpreting her silence as confirmation of the rumors. As the narrative gained momentum, discussions emerged about the broader implications of such speculation. Commentators pointed out the societal tendency to scrutinize women's choices, especially when they deviate from traditional expectations. Michelle Obama's situation became a case study in how women's autonomy is often misconstrued, leading to unwarranted assumptions about their personal lives. In the midst of this media frenzy, supporters of the Obamas rallied online, sharing messages of support and urging others not to jump to conclusions. They emphasized the couple's long history together, their shared values, and the mutual respect evident in their public appearances and statements over the years. The stage was set for Michelle Obama to address the rumors directly, providing clarity and sharing her perspective on the events that had unfolded. The speculation reached its peak when conservative media outlets and even some mainstream commentators began devoting entire segments to the supposed rift between Michelle and Barack Obama. Questions swirled: was Michelle distancing herself politically from Barack? Had ideological differences driven a wedge between them? Why hadn't she appeared in public with him lately? It was amidst this storm of assumptions that Michelle Obama finally addressed the matter in a rare and candid interview on the popular podcast On Purpose with Jay Shetty, released in early April 2025. In a calm yet firm voice, Michelle took the opportunity to set the record straight and refocus the public's gaze toward what she described as the real issues. "I know people are talking," she began. "People are always going to talk when you're in the public eye. But let me be very clear, Barack and I are not getting divorced. Period." Michelle didn't stop there. She went on to speak about the emotional toll of being part of one of the most public marriages in modern history. "We've been under the microscope since 2008, she said. "And through all of that, we've built a partnership based on trust, mutual respect, and love. We have disagreements like every couple. But the idea that I would skip a public event and that automatically means our marriage is in crisis, that's a stretch." She also explained her absence from recent political events. "I'm choosing how I spend my time, and I don't owe every moment of that to public appearances. There are seasons in life. Right now, I'm focusing on writing, mentoring young women through the Girls Opportunity Alliance, and spending time with my family in private." Michelle was especially candid when talking about how women, especially women of color, are often expected to follow a very narrow path. There's this idea that if a woman, particularly a black woman, isn't visible next to her husband, something must be wrong. "We don't ask these questions of men." She emphasized that her decision to step back from certain public appearances had everything to do with self-care and personal boundaries, not with marital strife. "I'm 60 years old this year," she said with a smile. "And one of the gifts of getting older is learning that I get to say no without explanation. I get to choose peace." The reaction to Michelle's interview was immediate and wide-reaching. Hashtags like #MichelleSpeaks and #ObamaStrong trended on social media. Supporters expressed relief, while others reflected on the broader cultural implications of her remarks. Media outlets that had previously speculated on a rift now turned to analyzing the societal critique embedded in Michelle's words. The Obamas, for their part, appeared to move forward unaffected. Barack, in a statement shared via his spokesperson, expressed full support for Michelle's decision to speak out. "We've built a life together over more than 3 decades. I support her choices and her voice always," he said. Even prominent political figures, both Republican and Democrat, chimed in with messages of support. Former First Lady Laura Bush praised Michelle's honesty and strength, saying, "It's not easy to live life in the public eye. Michelle has always handled that pressure with grace and integrity." The reaction to Michelle's interview was immediate and wide-reaching. Hashtags like #MichelleSpeaks and #ObamaStrong trended on social media. Supporters expressed relief while others reflected on the broader cultural implications of her remarks. Media outlets that had previously speculated on a rift now turned to analyzing the societal critique embedded in Michelle's words. The Obamas, for their part, appeared to move forward unaffected. Barack, in a statement shared via his spokesperson, expressed full support for Michelle's decision to speak out. "We've built a life together over more than 3 decades. I support her choices and her voice always," he said. Even prominent political figures, both Republican and Democrat, chimed in with messages of support. Former First Lady Laura Bush praised Michelle's honesty and strength, saying, "It's not easy to live life in the public eye. Michelle has always handled the pressure with grace and integrity." Following Michelle Obama's powerful interview with Jay Shetty, a wave of solidarity swept across not only her supporter base but also the general public. In an era where misinformation spreads like wildfire, the clarity and calm with which she dismissed the divorce rumors resonated widely. Shortly after the interview, Barack and Michelle Obama were seen together in Chicago attending a youth leadership summit hosted by the Obama Foundation. The event, which had been planned months in advance, now took on a new significance as the public watched closely for any signs of tension between them. Instead, what they saw was a couple deeply in sync, smiling, exchanging glances, and jointly addressing the crowd with the same energy and passion that marked their time in the White House. During his speech, Barack made a subtle reference to the recent rumors. "You know, people like to make up stories when there isn't one," he said with a chuckle, glancing at Michelle in the front row. "But Michelle and I, we're still dancing even if it's just in the kitchen." The line received warm applause and laughter, reinforcing the couple's image as relatable and grounded. It also reminded the audience of one of Michelle's most beloved quotes from her memoir Becoming, where she wrote about how she and Barack would often steal moments of joy like dancing together when no one was watching. The public response was overwhelming. Social media feeds filled with old photos and video clips of the Obamas hugging at campaign events, vacationing with their daughters Sasha and Malia, or enjoying quiet moments at home. The couple's story once again became a symbol of stability and hope in a time when cynicism about politics and leadership was widespread. However, Michelle's interview also sparked deeper discussions in think pieces, podcasts, and academic circles. Feminist scholars and media analysts began dissecting the gender dynamics at play in the rumors. Many pointed out how often powerful women are scrutinized not just for their actions but for their perceived silences. When Michelle chose not to attend a political event, her absence was interpreted as conflict, not autonomy. Dr. Angela Monroe, a sociology professor at Howard University, spoke on a panel about how Michelle's comments exposed a larger societal flaw. "There's an assumption that a woman's place is to be seen beside her husband, particularly in high-profile relationships," Monroe said. Michelle challenged that by reminding us that her value isn't measured by how often she appears next to Barack, but by the impact she makes in the world. Political analysts also weighed in. On MSNBC's The Readout, Joy Reid discussed how Michelle's decision to remain selective in her public appearances might signal a broader shift away from the performative nature of politics. "Michelle Obama never wanted to be a politician," Reid said. "She's been honest about that from the beginning. What we're seeing is a woman who's defining her legacy on her own terms." Even conservative commentators acknowledged the strength of the Obama's message. On Fox News, anchor Dana Perino remarked, "I may not agree with their politics, but the Obamas have always been a strong couple." Michelle's response was both graceful and assertive. "It's hard not to respect that." Meanwhile, the couple's daughters, Sasha and Malia, were said to be amused by the public's reaction. A family friend told People magazine that the girls laughed it off and found the rumors ridiculous. According to the source, the Obama family remains close-knit, often spending holidays and weekends together even as Sasha and Malia pursue their own careers and interests. As the dust began to settle, one thing became clear: Michelle Obama had not only silenced the rumors but had also sparked a nationwide conversation about the expectations placed on women in the spotlight. As the conversation surrounding Michelle Obama's denial of divorce rumors began to evolve, it became evident that this was more than just a moment of celebrity gossip correction. It had become a case study in how modern society interacts with public figures, especially those who once held powerful roles like First Lady and President, and how little room they are allowed for personal space, choice, and individuality. Michelle's calm yet assertive public response revealed a woman who had long since moved past the need for public approval. But it also highlighted the emotional complexity of being permanently tied to a national spotlight. During her follow-up comments on Instagram Live, she remarked, "The thing is, you don't stop being scrutinized when you leave the White House. There's this idea that we somehow signed up for permanent public access. But we didn't. We served. And now we're just trying to live like anyone else." This insight struck a chord with millions, especially women, who felt that Michelle was voicing what so many felt in their own lives. The pressure to always explain, to always be seen to avoid suspicion or judgment. Psychologists and wellness advocates weighed in as well. Dr. Cheryl Adams, a trauma and public figure therapist based in California, said during a PBS NewsHour feature, "The scrutiny Michelle Obama experiences is a form of what we call public identity stress. She's constantly evaluated based on appearances rather than substance. Her recent statements are healthy boundaries being communicated with grace." Interestingly, in the days following Michelle's response, public sentiment began to shift dramatically, not just in support of the Obama's marriage, but in a broader reevaluation of how we engage with public figures and their personal lives. Major editorials in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and The Atlantic published essays questioning the ethics of feeding into baseless rumors about political figures turned private citizens. In one editorial titled "Let the Obamas Breathe," columnist Charles Blow wrote, "Michelle Obama gave 8 years of her life to this nation in the most visible and grueling public service role imaginable. If she now decides to attend fewer ceremonies, we should not question her loyalty to her husband. We should admire her loyalty to herself." Meanwhile, Barack and Michelle were spotted on a private vacation in the Caribbean, a trip long planned and reportedly unrelated to the media swirl. Photographs published by People and Essence showed them walking hand in hand along the beach, appearing relaxed and smiling. These images, free of the usual political weight, served to reinforce their shared message: "We're good. Stop projecting." Despite the media circus, both Obamas returned to work with more vigor. Michelle resumed her public engagements around education, women's empowerment, and her latest children's book project. Barack continued speaking at civic leadership events and international summits addressing democratic resilience and climate change. What had initially sparked tabloid chaos now seemed to have boomeranged in favor of the Obamas. In confronting a rumor, Michelle had reframed the entire narrative, not just about her marriage, but about womanhood, choice, and modern celebrity culture. Instead of hiding or ignoring the speculation, she met it head-on and dismantled it, not with drama but with quiet dignity. By early April, poll data from Pew Research Center showed a notable rise in Michelle Obama's approval rating, climbing 6 points among independent voters. More significantly, 72% of those surveyed said they respected her authenticity and independence more than ever. Even as the story began to fade from the headlines, its ripple effects remained. The Obamas, once again, had weathered a storm with unity and poise. As the media landscape shifted away from the scandal-driven headlines about Michelle and Barack Obama's alleged split, it became clear that something deeper had been reaffirmed in the hearts of the American people. The Obamas are more than just former residents of the White House. They are cultural anchors in a country often rocked by polarization, disillusionment, and celebrity scandal. Michelle Obama's dignified response to the divorce rumors didn't just shut down baseless speculation, it reignited admiration for her and Barack's bond, values, and the type of leadership they continue to model outside political office. In a time when political families often struggle with either irrelevance or controversy, the Obamas stood firm in their identity, a couple that chose partnership over publicity and integrity over impulse. Their story also inspired new discussions about what it means to age publicly. As former President Obama turned 62 last year and Michelle followed in January with her 60th birthday, many media pieces reflected on how the Obamas were gracefully navigating a new season of life, one filled with freedom, reflection, and a dedication to impact over popularity. In a widely shared op-ed from The Atlantic, journalist Jemel Hill wrote, "There's something deeply powerful about watching Michelle Obama respond to nonsense not with outrage, but with grounded calm. It's a masterclass in personal power. She and Barack are living their lives on their terms now. And if anything, these rumors only highlighted how strong that foundation really is. And indeed, their lives post-White House have remained robust with meaning. Through the Obama Foundation, they have nurtured a global community of young leaders." Michelle's When We All Vote initiative continues to encourage civic engagement, especially among youth and communities of color. Barack's latest project, a Netflix docuseries on global democracy, has also found acclaim for its sober, hopeful storytelling. But beyond their public work, what seems to have touched Americans most is their continued presence as a family. Their love for their daughters, often expressed subtly through anecdotes, graduation photos, and rare family outings, reminds people of something increasingly rare in public life: consistency. As media figures moved on to new political cycles and celebrity gossip, it was clear that the Obamas had once again shown how to navigate a storm by anchoring to truth, not spectacle. On her podcast The Light, Michelle returned weeks after the story broke, briefly addressing the noise once more. "Barack and we've had to grow through every chapter of our lives, from law school to the White House to now. That doesn't change because someone on the internet makes something up. We're human. We're partners. We're blessed. And we're still here." The internet, often ruthless in its appetite for controversy, seemed satisfied. Comment sections that had once speculated wildly were now filled with messages of support, love, and gratitude. "Thank you, Michelle, for always keeping it real," one listener wrote on YouTube. "You inspire us to rise above the mess," wrote another. Even political rivals who had long critiqued the Obamas found little to latch onto. The scandal, if it ever was one, had deflated under the weight of the couple's authenticity. In many ways, this episode reminded Americans why Michelle Obama remains one of the most trusted public figures of the modern era. It's not just her intelligence, her style, or her history-making role, it's her quiet but unshakable moral compass. It's how she meets the world's chaos with calm clarity. And it's the way she and Barack continue to model what partnership looks like, not just in marriage, but in service to something greater.